Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. Forgive me, I guess I'm starting to lose my voice. I've been talking a lot all day, all week, and it's starting to wear on my voice, but I wanted to get this video out for you. It is the next installment of Murder Falcon! Yeah. It's the read-along that Graz and I do. We call it the MARVEL-ous Team-up. And, of course, we are being joined by Jay, the Faceless Book Review, for this graphic novel, Murder Falcon. Yep, it's by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer, and it's pure heavy metal rock and roll fun. You can see the back here. We've gone over this. This is, I think, our third installment. So we are now on chapter 5 and 6. We do 2 chapters every 2 weeks. So let's just start off with chapter 5. And we open up with this cool chapter page. And we see here, it looks like another heavy metal dude playing guitar. And it looks like his avatar, his creature, from the heavy behind him. So who is this dude and what's he doing? It starts off, it opens up though with, of course, Magnum Chaos. And, you know, he's the leader of these monsters that are coming through from the Veld and trying to take over Earth. We defeat them through heavy metal music. And in this one, we start off with, of course, Magnum Chaos, and looks like he's confronting this band. So this is a different band. So what we're going to learn in these 2 chapters is that there are other bands. There are other musicians that are fighting these creatures. Why? I mean, we really don't know, but apparently it's not just America and heavy metal, you know, Jake's heavy metal band Boudicus that is fighting these monsters. There's apparently others. I like this one. If you can see here, the makeup on the face. So right away, I know what that is. This is what's called black metal. So this is a band that plays black metal. Now, black metal is an extreme subgenre of heavy metal music, originating back in the 80s from Scandinavia. And it's very fast, very, very hard music with guttural screaming and growling for the vocals. Almost, I mean, very often you can't even understand the words, but it's a feel. And it's a very popular subgenre right now. Black metal and death metal are very popular, but it's always well, not always, but for the most part, the musicians, the artists, wear this kind of corpse type makeup. And a lot of black, of course, and real heavy music. But what we're seeing here is that this band is also playing, and they have their creatures that come out to fight these monsters, just like Jake and his band Boudicus. So I thought that was really interesting. It's the artwork is pretty crazy, pretty wild, sometimes hard to follow. But so we know that there's other bands fighting other monsters. This scene that we're seeing, though, is actually a little bit in the past, but we'll find out why. If you remember, back with Jake had gone and knocked on the door of his wife or ex-wife, and he is now confronting her. And they're talking. It's really, I mean, it's just getting more and more to me that this is using the fun atmosphere of heavy metal music to tell a really deep, sad story about overcoming fear and sickness, illness, maybe quite possibly death, and how it affects the other people in your life. Not just you. If you're the one that's dying, you know, it's definitely affecting you. I'm not making light of it, but it also affects the other people who love you. And that's really, I think, what is underneath this. And I kind of mentioned that I'm curious if maybe this is all happening in Jake's head. Because, like, for instance, here he says, but I want you back. I want to do better. I want to live again. And that strikes me is this maybe, is he in purgatory or something? Is this the decision maker? Is he on the brink of life or death? And this is what's happening in his brain, that he's confronting these evil monsters and he has to make that decision. Am I going to live or am I not going to live? I think that's what's going on here. It goes on now. The rest of the band goes and they go to this really cool graveyard with this monument of a heavy metal rocker here. And they say, I don't remember this ever being here before. But they are drawn there, and they go into this catacomb, and there's a big sarcophagus here. They slide open the top of it, and there's a VCR tape in there. Yeah, VCRs. Hey, people used to watch VCRs. Used to watch stuff on VCRs. But then, of course, while they're in there, here come the monsters. Of course, more monsters constantly. We do flash back to the house, and now Anne is Jake's wife. She's sitting on the porch drinking beers, of course, with Murph. Awesome. And we also see another anvil here. I really would like you to go on YouTube and search the band Anvil. ANVIL. It's a crazy story of this heavy metal band. I think you will enjoy it. But anyways, they're out there on the porch talking, and they're talking about Jake and all this stuff, and she's sad, and she's like, what can I do? I can't do anything. And he's like, you just can be there. And then Jake runs out and says, Peggy called. Remember Peggy? Peggy's like the waitress in that little diner that they were eating at. I think we're insinuating Peggy Sue, of course, right? Buddy Holly. Peggy Sue. I don't know. I'm thinking that everything has a reference to music and rock and roll in this book. But he says Peggy called and Jimmy and them are in trouble. And they get in their metal van and they take off to go save Jimmy and the rest of the band at that gravesite. And they start jamming out and fighting the monsters again. And splat, splat, splat. They're doing good. They're doing great. Anne is with them, and she's like, what the heck is going on here? It's just craziness, blood and music and metal flying all over the place. They eventually take care of that. But while this happens, something happened to Nate. Nate, you remember the old gentleman that came in and used his triangle to drudge up his animal creature and help them. And Nate now, I don't know if you can see this, but he's now like in a coma, and he's got this thing growing out of his brain. Here he is in bed. They get him to a hospital, and the doctor says his vital signs are good, but he's not awake. We can't wake them up. And he even shows them there's a whole hospital wing of these people that are being infected somehow by these monsters from the Veld, and they're doing something with their brains. Interesting. I think we'll learn more about that. And while we're at that scene, they say, "Oh yeah, we found this VCR tape in the catacombs. Let's go watch it." And they watch it, and it's pretty cool. There's a guy like in a cloak, and he said, "Blessed warriors, silence thine tongues and listen well." And they're watching this video, and it's talking about this army of the undead. So it's metal artists that have passed away. That's kind of not funny, but I'm actually wearing my Nirvana shirt today because this week is the 30th anniversary of the dreadful passing of Kurt Cobain. He took his own life, and also Lane Staley, who died of a drug overdose as well. Around this time, Lane Staley, the lead singer for Alice in Chains. So it's kind of, coincidental, I guess, serendipitous that they're talking about these dead metal, metal artists that have passed coming to make a undead army of metal to help fight these monsters, I guess. Interesting. And at the end of the VCR tape, there is a tablature. I don't know if you know about playing guitar. A lot of guitar players don't use, the standard written music. They use tab. It's called tab to show you what frets to play on each string. And that's how a lot of people learn how to play songs from other bands, through tab. That's pretty cool. They have, again, everything in here has something to do with music and metal, and I think it's really cool. But anyways, when Jake starts to play that tablature, everybody's like, "Wow, this music is amazing, this is awesome." And it affects Murph, and now Murph's arm now has this big key in it. So he's morphing. Murph is morphing. Let's see what that does. And then right at the end of the VCR tape are coordinates. So they must go somewhere. We find out that that's Japan. So Jake, there's a scene where Jake's sitting at Nate's bed and he's kind of sad. He's feeling that it's his fault. Anne comes and says, "It's not your fault." And she says, "You need to yell into the void. You need to choose to fight." He says, "I'm not ready to go." She says, "I know, but nothing is forever." Is that foreboding? What is he going to choose to not live? I don't know. But then boom, a fist comes through the wall, and look who it is. This is pretty cool. So here we are now with the black metal guitar player sitting on his avatar, his creature, and he says, "Jacob Boudicus, I am Helmdar, the sole survivor of the band Whisperwood." So remember when we saw them fighting against Magnum Chaos and monsters? Apparently those monsters killed everybody in this band, this Whisperwood band. And Helmdar is the sole survivor from that confrontation. And he says, right at the end of this chapter, "I want to join your band." Right down here. So I did some research, of course. So it's a black metal band. They began in Scandinavia in the 80s. They wear the makeup just like this dude here. And his name's Helmdar. Helmdar there was a book written back in the 30s, and it's a Scandinavian type of high fantasy book, kind of like Michael Moorcock here, or like Conan type stories. So that's where this name, I think, came from, which is pretty cool. And then when we go into chapter 6, here we've got Jake on the top chapter cover, Jake and Helmdar together. And Helmdar introduces his monster, and his monster's name is Aslaug. Aslaug. And Aslaug, if you do some research, actually was the second wife of Ragnar Lothar. So again, more Scandinavian. That's from the old sagas, right? The old Scandinavian sagas. If you read the old Scandinavian histories, really cool stories about, you know, the Viking gods, the Scandinavian gods of the time, you know, like Loki and Ragnar and Thor and stuff. But that's pretty cool. Aslaug was actually the second wife of Ragnar, and she was a badass. So that's cool. I like, again, they put everything in here, and he starts to tell them the story of his band, and that they had started playing when they were kids, and they kind of played just to escape from their troubles, and they found this music, and they found a drum set that when they started playing, that's how they got into this whole fight against the Veld and the monsters. But unfortunately, when they fought, everyone died in the band, but Helmdar. So we're going now. Helmdar's joined the band, Boudica. We're going to Japan on a ship, a crickety old ship, and Helmdar sits out on the front of the on the front of the ship with Anne, and they're talking about, you know, again, the sadness of losing everybody, of losing people. So I think that Helmdar is actually going through this same kind of thing that Jake is, because he's so sad, you know, from the loss of his band, his bandmates, and maybe he's in this same world because of that. Maybe he has to make a decision. You know, maybe he's like in a coma or something, and he's got to make this decision. Do I, you know, continue without my friends, without the people I love, or not? And he's telling Anne, and Anne's like, but what they don't tell you when someone is on chemotherapy is how that's going to affect the people who love this person on chemotherapy, and how to take care of them. I have this situation going with my best friend right now, and I'm not going to expound on it, but you know, it happens. You don't know how people are going to react to this type of situation. And so finally I guess they end up in Japan, and they find this statue of the horn. Somehow this horn's going to have to be played for, I think, to call the undead musicians. But they find it, and of course there's a big door there. And no, you know, Murph's got the key on his hand, so maybe we'll be able to go in there. But the guy who ferried them over to Japan, he gets on a radio, and he says, yeah, it's me. They're here. So somebody's told them, you know, he's told somebody, Magnum Chaos probably, that they're there. And of course, they go to this door. They're going to open up the door, and here comes Magnum Chaos and some monsters to attack them, apparently to prevent them from going through this door. And they start shredding. And all their monsters come out. I mean, their defenders come out, and they start fighting. But the fighting doesn't go very well. And Jake says to Helmdar, run. Take Anne, save her, get out of here. And so Helmdar's beast, Aslaug, grabs Anne and grabs Helmdar and starts running, while Jake and Boudica start fighting off these monsters in Magnum Chaos, and don't do a good job. And they're in trouble. Magnum Chaos even wraps them up and prevents them from going into the door. But now Anne and Helmdar are, have escaped, and Anne says, they tell you what to expect as a patient when you're diagnosed, but don't tell you what will happen when you're the healthy one taking care of the person going through chemo, through everything day to day. And she's breaking down to Helmdar, and Helmdar says, you need to, there's no need to apologize or anything. I know what you're going through, but you need to find your strength too. And he hands her a microphone, and she's like, I don't sing. I don't know how to sing. He's like, you don't have to sing, because, he's in a black metal band. They don't really sing. They scream. And he says, just put everything that you're feeling into it. He gives her a microphone, and we switch back. Magnum Chaos is really threatening to kill everybody. He stabs Jake through the shoulder, and Helmdar starts to play guitar, and Anne, remembers all these things that are going on with her and Jake, and she screams. And when she screams, her avatar, her monster comes out, and it's a vicious wolf. It's awesome. Really cool. So that gives them some more strength, of course, and Helmdar and Aslog come back and punch Magnum Chaos. Pow! Knock him away, and says, come on, let's go. Then he grabs the Boudica and let's go away. And Jake drops his guitar, of course, and Magnum Chaos stomps on it and breaks it. When he breaks the guitar, he breaks Murph as well. And now Murph has fallen to the ground. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Well, Helmdar says, I must do this to my last day. And he charges in, sitting on the shoulder of Aslog, to save everybody. Aslog reaches, he starts ripping on his guitar. He's screaming, for metal, for whisperwood, for Boudica. And Aslog reaches down, grabs the broken guitar, and flings it back to Jake while they're running away. And basically Helmdar sacrifices himself to save Boudica. And they get away. They go to the pier, and the boat, of course, isn't there. It was supposed to wait for them. That guy took off, and we don't know what's going to happen next. And then we hear Boudica, and there's the boat, and it says, my name is Shohei Takashi. I'm the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm with the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm here to help. Oh, so the guy in the boat was calling him. He wasn't calling Magnum Chaos. He wasn't leaving them. He went to get this guy. So now we've got a guy that plays violin in the Philharmonic Orchestra. Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra. Interesting. Kind of looks like Steve Vai a little bit, but I don't know. That's the end of the chapter. I can't wait to see what happens next. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you stick around and watch us in 2 weeks when we do the next 2 chapters of Murder Falcon. I'm having a blast with it. Yeah, it is a little quirky. It's a little weird in some places, but I think this underlying story is pretty deep and pretty meaningful. And I just love the references to all the different types of music and artists and stuff. So anyways, if you find any entertaining value in my videos, please like, please subscribe, and please leave me comments. And until next time, peace out.